Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Off the Crutch. My name is Travis Davis. So it seems like I can't stop talking about Austin, Texas. I took yet another trip last month to Austin, but this time it was for the Austin Film Festival. Some of you may know I have a background in English and I have dabbled in screenwriting and have written a few screenplays. The Austin Film Festival includes a writers' conference and short films premiering during the week and a half period. When the opportunity came to attend the festival, I decided to go. One of the cool things about the experience was attending the festival with my college roommate, Henry, from California, who was also a filmmaker. He flew in from Ohio, and we spent 4 days together at the conference. In addition to that, I was part of a screenwriters competition. While I did not advance, I received great feedback on my story, and I feel like I have something worth sharing. On the last night of the festival, I met Allison Norlian, my guest on today's podcast. She wrote and directed a short film called 13. It's about a mother who confronts her disabled daughter's diagnosis and fights to have her become bat mitzvah in their synagogue, which refuses to break from tradition. The film has screened internationally and was an official selection at the Austin Film Festival, Austin Jewish Film Festival, California Women's Film Festival, and Independent Shorts Awards. Allison is a 3-time Emmy-nominated journalist, filmmaker, and co-founder of BirdMine, a production company dedicated to amplifying the voices and stories of people with disabilities and other underrepresented communities. Through BirdMine, Allison writes, directs, and produces short and long-form documentaries and narrative films that aim to shift perceptions and inspire social change. Currently, Allison is in post-production for Meandering Scars, a documentary she co-filmed, wrote, and produced. With each project, Allison's goal remains the same: to shift the way the world views disability, bringing dignity, depth, and humanity to these stories. I'm so incredibly grateful that our paths crossed, so please enjoy the interview. It's so great to have you on the podcast today, Allison. Thank you so much for being on. How are you this morning? Or actually, no, it's afternoon. No, hold on. So it's the morning for you and afternoon for me.
Yes, and thank you for having me. And it's been a wonderful morning. Thank you for asking. How's your morning?
My morning was a little hectic, bleeding into the afternoon, but yeah, things are good. Reason, because Allison, you live in Southern California, where I also went to school. I studied English, but I also wrote screenplays when I was at Azusa Pacific University. And some of my listeners know that I was in Austin for the second time. Part of that was for the Austin Film Festival. You had a short film, 13, that premiered there, and I had the opportunity to meet you at one of the parties. Let's just start off talking about how you got your foot into filmmaking.
Yeah, so it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to tell you the Spark Notes version. So I started my career as a journalist. Um, and I went to school for journalism, went to Rutgers for journalism and media studies. And the reason I wanted to become a journalist is my profoundly disabled sister. So my older sister, to start off, her name is Rebecca. She's developmentally disabled, and my mother was a single mom and raised us on her own. And that inspired everything in my life, especially everything in my professional life. I mean, I was an advocate before I even knew what that word meant. And I was immersed in disability culture, and I really wanted to change the way the world viewed disability. So that's why I became a journalist. I spent the majority of the beginning of my career as a journalist, specifically in television, worked in various markets across or I should say up and down the East Coast, because I'm from New Jersey originally. And I ended up in Richmond, Virginia. That was my sort of last market before I left television journalism. And in Richmond, I did everything from, I tried very hard, I should say, to tell as many stories focused on disability as I could. Obviously, it's kind of difficult when you're working as a general assignment reporter in a news station. They require you to do a lot of other things. But with that said, I still managed to. I was very grateful that I won a Catalyst for Change Award from the Arc of Virginia for all my work focused on the disability community. I've been nominated for multiple Emmys for work that has also focused on the disability community. And eventually, my path took me to LA for my husband's career. And at that point, I decided to switch from television to digital journalism. So I was writing a lot of articles for various publications and still focusing on the disability community. And then eventually I would start my production company with the goal of creating documentaries, which to me was an extension of journalism, longer form journalism. And from there, I think living in LA and having a screenwriting husband and many screenwriter friends inspired me to also create narrative pieces. So since my company now focuses on both documentary and narrative, so that's sort of my journey from journalist to filmmaker.
I find that a lot of individuals who've been personally impacted by either siblings or other family members with disabilities have been able to create either like a second career or something on the side that really makes a positive impact for the community. And so when I saw that your film was being premiered at the Austin Film Festival, or I don't know if I should say premiered, because was that the first time that your film was
Texas premiere.
Texas premiere? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was that process like for you to submit it to a festival and then actually see it in person?
Sure. Well, can I start? I'll share a little bit about the film.
Please. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's called 13, and it's my first. I mean, I'd written a few short films before that, but it's the first short film that I really knew what I was doing when I wrote it and submitted it to festivals. And it's actually inspired by real life. So the story is inspired by my mother and my sister. Um, the film, the log line for the film is a mother fighting to have a bat mitzvah, which is a coming of age ceremony in Jewish tradition, for her profoundly disabled daughter in a synagogue that refuses to break from tradition. And my mom it's a love letter to my mom and sister. As someone who, I was the younger sister, and uh, I just, I was on the sidelines as I watched my mom advocate for my sister, and really she was my inspiration and why I became an advocate, because I followed in her footsteps, I would say. But like my mom did it as it was her daughter, right? So she just everything that she possibly could do to ensure my sister had a great life and was allowed to experience all the experiences that all of us typically go through. My mom wanted to ensure my sister had those same experiences. And so, everything she did was to make sure that, my sister had a quote unquote normal life like everyone else. And it really rubbed off on me, like it's something I thought about a lot. And the fact that my mom was really a trailblazer, not even realizing, like it wasn't even, it's like she wasn't
Mm.
purposefully doing it. She just was doing it because it was her daughter. And so anyway, that's sort of why I wanted to write 13. It was really like I said, a love letter to them. And so anyway, so 13, I wrote it in January of last year. We filmed it in July of last year. It was done by January of this year. So it was a very quick turnaround. And we submitted to a few different festivals, and Austin was honestly my number one pick because I love that festival. It's such an incredible incredible place for writers and filmmakers. And every time I've ever gone, it's like, it's electric. It's a magical place. And I am honestly still in shock. Like, I am just so grateful and honored that they chose 13, and, they saw this film and believed in it and platformed it. And then to see it at the festival was, I mean, it was unbelievable. It was a packed house, for our shorts block, and just we got so much positive feedback from the filmmaking community and other people who were part of the audience there. Naomi Rubin, who is the young woman on the autism spectrum, actress on the autism spectrum, who played the role inspired by my sister, came to Austin. She was at the screening, and, we spoke on the panel afterwards together. And it was just, yeah, it was incredible, the whole thing. So, mhm.
For people that don't know, like the filmmaking process is very extensive, has a lot of moving pieces. And when you're creating, you need some funding, usually, of just like capital. Was it difficult for you to find that
Whether it's a documentary or a narrative, it's you need funding
short
and you
term?
need
Sure.
you need
Yeah.
money. um, so for 13, we actually fundraised on Seed and Spark. It's a filmmaking platform, and we raised $20,000 to create 13. Um, so we got really lucky that our networks, I mean, myself and my team, we have really wonderful people in our lives who donated their money to help us create this film. And yes, you're right. It's creating a film has a lot of moving parts, and it is very difficult. Something that, I was a journalist, I did not have experience in filmmaking before making this film. And I think it came out so great because I have a lot of wonderful and supportive people in my life who wanted to see me succeed and wanted to see the film succeed. So, my husband is a screenwriter, and he was very instrumental in helping me figure out how to create this film. I also had multiple friends who came on board, like my co-director Jean Lee, who this was my first time directing, her first time directing, and we decided to co-direct to kind of help with that process, bounce ideas off of each other, and really see what life as a director is. And then we had a lot of friends, and a lot of great friends volunteer their time and expertise and skills to help us get to the finish line. So it was quite a process, though. When you're creating a film, an indie film like 13, you really wear so many hats, right? Like, I mean, we were producing, casting, finding the locations, everything, fundraising. You are, you are the kind of you become a one-stop shop in a
Mhm.
way, um, and you have to sort of do everything. So it's, and of course, like, it's not just me; it's everyone on the team. Sort of wears many hats, and so but it was really, for me, a great way to get my feet wet and to really understand the filmmaking process. And I'm so grateful that, I mean, it was my first narrative film, and it came out, what I would say, I mean, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but what I believe is an amazing, incredible piece. It was, the Austin Film Festival chose it for their festival. So I hope that
Mhm.
it speaks for itself. But yeah, it took a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a lot of people to really help bring 13 to life.
What were the conversations like, if there were any, at the synagogue where you filmed and the folks there? Because I can imagine a lot of dialogue went into finding the right synagogue and then sharing with the folks there about what your plan was and then the idea behind the movie.
Yeah, I would say that everyone from the Jewish community that I ran into during this process, they were so receptive of the film. I mean, the thing is it takes place in the 90s, right? It's not modern day. And so it takes place during a time where the disability community was not just treated this way by the Jewish community. I mean, really, it was sort of like every community had not advanced in the way that they have today. Um, and so it takes place, back a few decades ago, and also the Jewish community has come such a long way since then. In the sense of like bar and bat mitzvahs are very common now for people with disabilities, and it's they are modified and everyone it's become a very inclusive. Most synagogues, I would say, have become extremely inclusive. Um, but of course, it took some time to get there. We filmed at this temple, Sinai Temple, here in Los Angeles. And actually, I'm telling you, like, the kismet of this film has been wild. So we looked at a few different synagogues. We ended up at Sinai one day. We were, location scouting, and they were taking us through the temple. And I ended up talking to this woman who was sort of the liaison between me and the synagogue. And she was like, "You have to meet our rabbi." They have a few rabbis, but this one guy, Rabbi Erez Sherman, he has, he has a disabled brother. So I meet the rabbi, and it turns so. I guess this is kind of a spoiler alert, but the rabbi in my film, I don't want to say he's an antagonist. He's really just a roadblock with his own background that you come to find out sort of led him to his beliefs, right? Like he had his own experiences that became the reason why he was the roadblock in the first place for the mother and daughter in my film. In real life, this rabbi I met, and what you find out, let me backtrack. What you find out is that the rabbi in my film had a brother who was disabled and who passed away. That's all I'm going to say. There's other stuff, but like that's what you find out. So when I went to the synagogue to scout, and this woman said, "You have to meet Rabbi Erez Sherman," we end up chatting. Turns out he had a brother who was disabled and who passed away. So it was I mean, obviously the rabbi in real life had a great relationship with his brother and the family. He had a bar mitzvah, and it was very different than my movie, but just the kismet of that happening. And we actually ended up using a photo of the rabbi from Sinai Temple's brother in our film.
Wow.
So it was very crazy, like how it all sort of worked out that way. Um, but yeah, like I said, the Jewish community really they responded so well to the film. They were so excited. I mean, to have us there. They actually held a screening for us after the film was done. The Jewish Federation of South Jersey, so my sister was bat mitzvahed in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, where I'm from. And when that happened, it was a huge to-do in my town. Like the local Jewish paper did like a whole write-up on it. There's a huge photo of my mom and sister on the front page of that paper back in the 90s. So when I was fundraising for 13, I reached out to the CEO of the Jewish Federation of South Jersey, who's obviously different than the CEO was back then. But she knew my family. And to make a long story short, they donated over $3,000. So um it's we've really, like, everyone was so receptive to helping us get this made. And I know in the log line it makes the rabbi kind of sound bad, but like I said, he's really a complex character who you come to realize has his own backstory of what led him to the decision at first to deny the bat mitzvah. So
Wow. That's such an incredible story. And I'm sure at some point the kismet made you feel like, yeah, like this is something special. But I'm wondering, did you ever feel during this process any instances where maybe this wasn't going to work out, or what type of self-doubt did you kind of wrestle with during the filmmaking process?
I would say the self-doubt that I experienced really stemmed from the fact that I was flying by the seams of my pants without much experience in filmmaking. So, um, that was really difficult for me because there were times, I think if I was doing this now, like this was my first film. So there was a lot of learning. It was like I was learning on the job. Um, and I learned a lot. There's a lot that I would do now when making a film that, I would believe in myself a little bit more, right?
Mm.
Like I didn't always trust my own judgment or intuition because I wasn't sure if it was leading me in the right direction because I didn't have
Mm.
that background. And so because of that, I don't think I think in the future, I can trust myself a little bit more. Because I really did, even though I didn't have that, years and years of experience, I really did know what I was doing. And with that said, I couldn't have done it without my team, and I'm very grateful for them. But yeah, I think the self-doubt, that's where the self-doubt kind of crept in. And um but I did it, and I'm very proud of myself. uh so I tend to be a very hands-on learner. I can't just like read a book and know what
Mm.
I that's not how I learn. Or listen to a lecture. I have to very much like get my hands dirty to fully understand and grasp whatever it is I'm trying to do. And so the thing about 13 is it really it was like a master class for, getting my master's in filmmaking. It was from beginning to end, truly like learning what it takes. And somehow, like I said, it's because I was surrounded by such a great team. It came out and it was beyond professional. I don't think you would realize watching 13 that the person who wrote and co-directed it was, a beginner.
Mm.
So, yeah.
That's really cool. I think anytime that you're taking on any new venture, there is going to be that self doubt. But once you start putting action into play, and I think that doubt really kind of fades away because like you said, you're you're doing it. You are working with your team, you're putting ideas together. And so yeah, that takes a lot of courage and a lot of resilience on your part to have this dream and plan that you want to execute, and then you finish it, and then you see the fruits of your labor by seeing it at the Austin Film Festival.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of unreal. Honestly, like if you had asked me, I don't know, even when we started this venture of making the film, I just, I'm just grateful. I'll just put it that way,
Mm.
that this is where we ended up, and that we got to screen at one of the most prestigious film festivals in the world. It's very humbling.
What's next for you?
So I had mentioned earlier, my company has a documentary that we started actually in 2020, so before the short film, and it's also disability focused, and we are in post production for the documentary. So that is a story about a woman who was paralyzed in a domestic violence incident in her 20s. She's in her 40s now. She spent the better part of 2 decades with suicidal ideation and depression. And then in 2019, she discovered a nonprofit, and she's from North Carolina. So this was in North Carolina, that helps people with disabilities compete in obstacle course races. So I don't know if you've heard of like Spartan races or Tough Mudder
Hmm.
races. So she started doing those with this group, and it really changed her life. Being able to challenge herself physically really helped her mentally. And so then she decided to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in her chair. Um, because as you know, she uses a chair full time.
What is her name?
Erica Bogan. Do you know her?
Okay, this is real time, everybody. This is not planned. Erica is a very good friend of mine that I've known for several years at the Abilities Expo, and she told me the last time that I saw her in person that she was going to be climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and that
Wait,
a
let me
documentary.
ask you something. Where did you go to the Abilities Expo in Phoenix?
I did, yes.
We were there filming her.
So, yeah, this was not planned. I didn't know I didn't know Allison knew Erica, but yes, Erica and I, are pretty close, and we've had a lot of conversations. She was the first person that I ever met at the Abilities Expo. I love
Wow.
Erica to death. Yeah. Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
What a small world. Yeah, so Erica, we met her in 2020. We started following her journey. And when like I would fly to North Carolina, film her with her family and her friends and in her everyday life. And then we went with her to we filmed at the Abilities Expo in Phoenix with her. And then we flew to Tanzania with her and we filmed her going up the mountain. So, um that's crazy. Wow. Um Small world.
You talk about kismet, and for longest time, there's a handful of people that I've shared this with. I'm like, there's no such thing as coincidences. And, when I met you at the party, I was with my friend Henry, who makes films for a living. And it was just really cool to have that experience with him because I hadn't seen him for about 3 years or so. And it wasn't until the first time that I was in Austin that I found out about the Austin Film Festival because I was at Lady Bird Lake and I met this woman and well, this girl and her mother, and the girl was in the film and TV industry. She happened to be the old operations director for the Austin Film Festival. So when I told her that I've written screenplays and I went to school in Southern California, she was the one that encouraged me to come out in October for the Austin Film Festival because I hadn't planned on coming back again. So it wasn't until I met them, or I should say Sonia, that I came back and then reconnected with my friends, met you, and now we're talking about Erica, who climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, who I've known for a handful of years.
Wow. Yeah, I mean it's it's very it's life is weird. The journey it takes us on um and yeah, I mean even the way I met Erica was very very random. Like when Cody Leibowitz is my business partner and friend, and when we created our company, we didn't know what we were going to do for our first documentary. So we were just sort of like, what kind of stories can we tell that we can put on YouTube and on our website to sort of give people an idea of the type of stories that we're going to share. And so the first thing we were going to do as a company, we were going to create like a mini series that we were going to put online highlighting people with disabilities making an impact in the fitness industry. So because I'm an advocate, I have a lot of friends in the industry and they introduced me to other people and their friends. And that's how I met Erica through a friend. And we just connected over Zoom. This was also during the pandemic when all that started. And so we were chatting. It was sort of like a pre-interview just to learn about her because she was a Spartan athlete and she was a CrossFit athlete. And so we were talking. And at the very end of our conversation, where I'm thinking, okay, she'd be great for the series we're doing, she sort of casually mentions, oh, by the way, I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. Like so so casual. And I was like, wow, way to bury the lead. So the next thing you know, that becomes our documentary. But I must say that our documentary is very much, it's the Kilimanjaro climb is really what we call like the MacGuffin. It's the through line of the movie, but it's very much a documentary about what it's like to be disabled in America, what financial and issues that Erica face, the inaccessibility she faces on a daily basis. It's like all of the things that she faced that led her to have the mental health, you know, I don't know if I'm mental health issues that she found herself experiencing. And so it's really sort of like we explore, it's a journey through that. I'll just say that. And the climb is just sort of the through line of the film.
Wow. I'm still a little bit in shock because I know Erica does amazing things, and she has her organization in Tanzania. And yeah, it's just a wild journey. And like life is small, or like life is crazy, but the world is small, and these just connections. Yeah. Wow. So to wrap things up, where can people see 13? Is it going to be streamed anywhere, or?
So right now, 13 is still going through the festival circuit. I don't know how fast you're going to put this up, but tomorrow starts, there's a virtual, the Austin Jewish Film Festival also chose 13 to screen. So we screened at the Austin Jewish Film Festival in person twice, and now they're doing an online showcase. So it'll be online for free for like a week. But then other than that, we're still waiting to hear back from other festivals. And then once we sort of run through the festival circuit, I mean, the hope is we're still trying to figure out this on the back end, but we're hoping for educational distribution, because a lot of synagogues and Jewish federations and, various places within the Jewish community have been really interested in showing their rabbis, their clergy, their bar and bat mitzvah students. And so we're hoping we can figure out an educational distribution program. But I'll keep you posted on where in the future 13 will be able to be seen.
Perfect. And where can people find you, find out more about you, your work?
Sure. So we have a website. It's www.birdmine.com, and also on Facebook and Instagram under BirdMine Stories.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Allison, for sharing about 13, your documentary, connecting the dots with Erica. That's so cool. I'll need to bring Erica on the podcast to share about her experience, and that would be a great conversation as well. So I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to today's show. Follow me on social media at Off the Crutch, or email me at offthecrutch@gmail.com. I would love to hear your comments, questions, or if you want to be on my podcast. Until next time, everybody, take care.